Jack Morrison stood at the front of his ship's bridge, looking out at the dark space ahead. The dead zone stretched before them like a giant black hole in the stars. Around its edges, broken pieces of alien ships floated like warning signs. For 300 years, no ship had gone into this part of space and come back alive. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Jack's crew worked at their stations, checking readings and watching screens. They all knew what they were about to do was dangerous, maybe even crazy. "Captain, we're getting messages from the Galactic Council," said Amy Carter from her seat at the communications desk. She was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and worried eyes. "They're telling us to stop here and wait for new orders." Jack looked at his first officer, Ben Hughes, who stood beside him. Ben was older, with gray hair and scars on his face from years of space travel. They had served together for 10 years, and Jack could read the concern in his friend's eyes. "The council doesn't want us going in there," Ben said quietly. "They've been very clear about that." Jack nodded but didn't move away from the window. Out there, somewhere in that darkness, was the Aurora. It was a human research ship that had gone missing 6 months ago. The last message they sent was a distress call, and then nothing. The council had declared the ship lost, but Jack refused to give up on his people. "Sir, I'm definitely picking up the Aurora's emergency signal," said Lisa Park from the navigation station. She was a small woman with black hair tied back in a tight bun. Her fingers moved quickly over the glowing controls. "The signal is coming from inside the dead zone, but it's strange. Like something is changing it as it travels." Dr. Kevin Ross looked up from his science station. He was a tall man with thick glasses and messy blonde hair. "The readings don't match anything in our computers. The electromagnetic waves are all wrong. It's like the laws of physics are different in there." Jack had heard the stories about the dead zone. Every alien race in the galaxy feared it. They said it was cursed, filled with things that ate ships and left nothing behind. The council species had been avoiding it for over 1,000 years, but they never explained exactly why. "What do the council records say about it?" Jack asked. Dr. Ross shook his head. "That's the strange part. They have almost no information, just warnings to stay away. Some of the older species mention the hungry darkness or the place where stars go to die, but no real details." Jack made his decision. Humanity had only joined the Galactic Council 50 years ago. They were still seen as the new kids, the primitive species that barely understood space travel. Most aliens treated humans like children who needed to be protected from dangerous things, but humans had something the older races seemed to have lost. They were willing to take risks when it mattered. They didn't give up on their own people. "All hands, this is the captain," Jack announced over the ship's communication system. His voice carried to every part of the UES Defiant. "We're going into the dead zone to find the Aurora and bring our people home. I know this is dangerous, but we've never left anyone behind before, and we're not starting now." Amy Carter looked nervous. "Captain, what should I tell the council?" "Tell them we're going to rescue our people. If they don't like it, they can file a complaint after we get back." The Defiant was a good ship, one of Earth's newest exploration vessels. It had strong shields, powerful engines, and a crew of 63 humans who trusted their captain. Jack had handpicked most of them from the best officers in the Earth. "Fleet, engineering, this is the bridge," Jack called to the engine room. "Engineering here, Captain," came the voice of Ryan Bell, the chief engineer. Ryan was a practical man who could fix anything with spare parts and determination. "All systems are running perfectly. We're ready for whatever's in there." Dr. Ross was still studying his readings. "Captain, I'm detecting some kind of field around the dead zone. It's not solid, but it's definitely there. Like a barrier made of energy." "Will it stop us?" Jack asked. "I don't think so. But once we cross it, we might not be able to communicate with the outside galaxy." Jack thought about this. If they went in and something happened, nobody would know. The council would just add another ship to the list of vessels lost in the dead zone, but the Aurora was in there, and her crew was counting on them. Navigation, plot a course for the Aurora's last known position, Jack ordered. Lisa Park's fingers danced over her controls. Course plotted, Captain. We'll reach the barrier in 15 minutes. Medical, are you ready for anything unusual? Jack asked. Dr. Claire Stone answered from the medical bay. She was a calm woman who had seen everything in her 20 years as a space doctor. Medical is ready, Captain. Though I have to say, I don't know what to expect in there. The bridge crew worked quietly as they approached the dead zone. Jack could feel the tension in the air. Everyone knew they were about to do something that had never been done before. Captain, Amy Carter called out, I'm getting another message. From the council, they're ordering us to turn back immediately. Ignore it, Jack said. Ben Hughes moved closer to Jack. Are you sure about this? The council has been around for thousands of years. If they say this place is dangerous, then we'll be careful, Jack replied. But I'm not abandoning our people because some aliens are scared of the dark. The Defiant moved slowly toward the barrier. On the main screen, they could see the edge of the dead zone more clearly now. It looked like a wall of purple and black. Energy, swirling and moving like a living thing. All stations, report readiness, Jack ordered. Navigation ready, Lisa Park called out. Communications ready, Amy Carter said, though her voice shook slightly. Engineering ready, Ryan Bell reported from below. Medical ready, Dr. Stone confirmed. Science station ready, Dr. Ross added, though he was frowning at his readings. Weapons and shields ready, reported Lieutenant Danny White from the tactical. Station. Jack took a deep breath. Take us in. The Defiant moved forward, crossing the barrier into the dead zone. As soon as they passed through, everything changed. The stars outside turned a strange purple color, and the ship's instruments began showing impossible readings. Hull holding steady, Ryan Bell reported, but his voice sounded confused. But Captain, the quantum field generators are working overtime. It's like space itself is trying to tear us apart. Time readings are wrong, Lisa Park said, staring at her instruments. According to the navigation computer, we've been in here for 3 hours, but my watch says we just entered 2 minutes ago. Dr. Ross was working frantically at his station. The laws of physics are definitely different in here. Matter and energy are behaving in ways that shouldn't be possible. There, Lisa Park pointed at the main screen. The Aurora, 2 kilometers. To our right, but Captain, she's not alone. Jack looked at the screen and felt his heart skip a beat. The Aurora was there, apparently in one piece, but it was surrounded by structures that hurt to look at. They seemed to be buildings, but they twisted and turned in ways that made no sense. It was like looking at something that existed in too many dimensions at once. Life signs aboard the Aurora are weak but present, Dr. Stone reported. 7 crew members still alive. But there are other readings. Things that don't match any. Known life forms? Jack stared at the impossible structures surrounding the Aurora. The dead zone wasn't empty at all. It was full of things that the galaxy's younger races had mistaken for natural phenomena. Captain, Amy Carter whispered, I'm detecting signals. Structured communications, they're trying to talk to us. Jack realized they had just made first contact with something that had been hiding in the darkness for centuries. Whatever lived? In the dead zone, it was intelligent. And it was watching them. The Defiant moved slowly through the strange purple space of the dead zone. Everything felt wrong here. The air seemed thicker, and the lights on the bridge flickered with colors that had no names. Jack Morrison kept his eyes on the main screen, watching the Aurora grow larger as they approached. Captain, the ship's chronometer is showing 3 different times, Lisa Park reported from navigation. Her voice was tight with worry. According to the main computer, we've been in here for 6 hours. My personal watch says 20 minutes, but the quantum sensors insist it's been 3 days. Dr. Ross was frantically working at his science station, trying to make sense of the readings. Time isn't flowing normally in here. It's like we're moving through different streams of reality at once. Engineering to bridge, came Ryan Bell's voice over the intercom. He sounded frustrated. Captain, the engines are running fine, but the quantum field generators are overheating. I've never seen readings like this. It's like the ship is trying to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. The dead zone was more than just dangerous space. It was a place where the normal rules of the universe didn't apply. "Can you keep us stable?" Jack asked. "For now," Ryan replied. "But I don't know how long the generators can handle this kind of stress." Ben Hughes was studying the tactical displays. "Captain, those structures around the Aurora ... They're not showing up on any of our sensors as solid matter. But they're definitely there." Jack looked at the impossible buildings on the screen. They seemed to be made of crystallized light and shadow, constantly shifting and changing shape. Some parts looked solid, while others seemed to fade in and out of existence. "Dr. Stone, what are you reading about life signs?" Jack asked. The medical officer's voice came from the medical bay. "The Aurora crew is alive, but their vital signs are strange. It's like they're sleeping and awake at the same time. And there are other readings, entities that don't match any known biological patterns." Amy Carter looked up from her communications. "Station, Captain, I'm receiving structured signals. They're not random. Someone or something is trying to communicate with us. Can you decode them?" Jack asked. "I'm trying, but the language is unlike anything in our databases. It's not just words. It's like they're sending concepts directly into our minds." Dr. Ross looked up from his station with wide eyes. "Captain, I think I'm beginning to understand what this place is. The dead zone isn't a natural phenomenon, it's artificial. Someone built this." "Built what?" Ben asked. "A pocket dimension. A place that exists outside normal space-time. The beings living here have technology so advanced they can create their own reality." Jack felt his heart race. They had stumbled into something far beyond human understanding. "Are they hostile?" "I don't think so," Dr. Ross said slowly. "If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done it the moment we entered. But they're letting us approach the Aurora." The Defiant continued its slow journey toward the human research ship. As they got closer, Jack could see more details. The Aurora looked intact, but it was covered in the same strange energy that surrounded the mysterious structures. "Captain," Amy Carter said suddenly, "I'm getting a signal from the Aurora." "It's Captain Blake." Jack straightened up. "Morgan Blake was a good officer and a friend?" "Put him through." The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at the bridge of the Aurora. But something was wrong. The image seemed to shift and blur, and Captain Blake looked older than he should have. "Jack, thank God you're here," Blake's voice sounded distant and echoing. "But you shouldn't have come. This place ... it's not what we thought." "Morgan, what happened to you?" Jack asked. "You've been missing for 6 months." Blake's image flickered again. 6 months? "Jack, we've been here for 3 years. Time doesn't work the same way in here." Dr. Ross leaned forward. "Captain Blake, can you tell us about the beings living here? We're detecting intelligence, but we don't understand their nature." Blake's face grew serious. "They call themselves the Watchers. They're the oldest intelligence in the galaxy? They've been here since before the first stars formed. They exist in quantum superposition, able to see multiple timelines at once." "Why are they keeping you here?" Jack asked. "They're not keeping you as prisoner," Blake replied. "They're studying us, learning about humanity. Jack, they've been testing every species that enters the dead zone for thousands of years. Most flee in terror, others try to conquer them. But they're interested in us because we're different." "Different how?" Ben asked. "We came here to rescue people. Not for conquest or treasure or power. We risked everything to save strangers. They've never encountered a species that would do that." The image of Blake began to fade. "Jack, they want to meet with you. But be careful, they don't think like us. They exist in ways we can barely comprehend." The signal cut out, leaving the bridge in silence. Jack stared at the blank screen, processing what he had just heard. "Captain," Lisa Park said quietly, "we're receiving a new signal. It's coming from the largest structure." "On screen," Jack ordered. The main screen filled with swirling patterns of light and shadow. Then, slowly, shapes began to form. They looked almost human, but they were translucent and seemed to exist in multiple places at once. "Greetings, humans of the vessel Defiant," came a voice that seemed to speak directly into their minds. "I am the one you may call the First Watcher. We have been observing your species with great interest." Jack stepped forward. "We came here to rescue our people. We mean no harm." "We know," the First Watcher replied. "Your intentions are clear to us. We see not just your actions, but the thoughts and emotions behind them. This is why we wish to speak with you." "What do you want from us?" Jack asked. "We want to understand you. For eons, we have watched the younger races of the galaxy. They come to us driven by fear, greed, or the desire for power, but you came here driven by something else. Something we had almost forgotten existed." "What's that?" Ben asked. "Hope. Love. The willingness to sacrifice for others. These are rare qualities in the galaxy. Most species lose them as they grow older and more advanced." Dr. Ross was frantically taking notes. "How long have you been here? What happened to your physical forms?" "We transcended physical existence long ago," the First Watcher explained. "We became one with the quantum foam of space-time itself. We exist in all possible states simultaneously, able to observe the past, present, and future." "Then why do you need to test other species?" Jack asked. The First Watcher's form flickered, with what might have been sadness. "Because we are dying. Our quantum coherence is slowly dissolving as the universe ages. We need successors. Someone who can inherit our role as guardians of cosmic stability." Amy Carter looked confused. "Guardians of what?" "The balance between order and chaos, the protection of younger species, the preservation of knowledge and wisdom. We have been the unseen guides of galactic civilization for millions of years." Jack felt the weight of what they were being told. "And you think humanity might be suitable for this role?" "Perhaps. But first, you must prove yourselves worthy. Not through strength or intelligence, but through the content of your character. You must show us that you can be trusted with power beyond imagination." The First Watcher's image began to fade. "Rest now. Tomorrow the testing begins. Your crew will face challenges that will reveal the true nature of your species. If you succeed, you will inherit knowledge that could transform the galaxy. If you fail, what happens if we fail?" Jack asked. "Then you will join the thousands of other species who have tried and fallen short. You will be allowed to leave, but you will carry with you the knowledge that humanity was not ready for its destiny." The signal ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Jack looked around at his crew. They were scared, he could see it in their eyes. But they were also determined. They had come here to save their people, and they weren't going to give up now. "Captain," Amy Carter said softly, "what do we do?" Jack squared his shoulders. "We do what humans do best. We face the unknown with courage and hope. And we prove that humanity deserves a place among the stars." The Defiant continued its approach to the Aurora, sailing through the impossible space of the dead zone toward whatever trials awaited them. The Defiant docked with the Aurora in a space that defied all logic. The two ships connected through an energy field that felt solid but looked like flowing water. Jack Morrison led a small team through the airlock, not knowing what to expect. On the other side, the Aurora's corridors were filled with the same strange purple light that existed throughout the dead zone, but the ship seemed normal otherwise. The gravity worked, the air was breathable, and the lights functioned properly. It was only when Jack looked closely that he noticed the walls seemed to shimmer, as if they existed in multiple dimensions at once. "Captain Morrison," came a familiar voice. Morgan Blake appeared at the end of the corridor, but he looked different. His hair was longer, his face more lined, and his eyes held a depth that spoke of experiences beyond normal understanding. "Morgan," Jack said, clasping his friend's hand. "Are you all right?" "Define all right," Blake replied with a tired smile. "We're alive and we're sane mostly. But we've seen things that change how you look at the universe." Blake led them to the Aurora's bridge, where the rest of his crew was waiting. They all looked older, marked by their time in this strange place. Dr. Emma Price, the Aurora's science. officer, was studying readings that made no sense to normal physics. "Jack, you need to understand what you're dealing with," Blake said. "The Watchers aren't just another alien species. They're the first intelligence that ever existed in our galaxy. They've been here since before the first stars were born." Dr. Ross from the Defiant pulled out his scanner, trying to record everything. "How is that possible? Nothing can live that long." "They don't live in the way we understand life," explained Dr. Price. "They exist as quantum consciousness spread across space and time. They can see every possible future, every potential outcome of every decision." Amy Carter, who had come with the away team, looked confused. "If they can see the future, why? Do they need to test us?" "Because the future isn't fixed," Blake answered. "It's like a river with many branches. They can see all the possible paths, but they can't predict which one will actually happen. That depends on the choices we make." Jack walked to the Aurora's main screen, which showed the impossible structures surrounding them. "Tell me about these tests. What exactly do they want from us?" "They want to know if humanity can handle responsibility on a cosmic scale," Blake said. "They've been the hidden guardians of the galaxy for millions of years. They've prevented wars, guided the development of younger species, and maintained the balance between order and chaos." "And now they're dying," Dr. Price added. "Their quantum coherence is breaking down. They need someone to take their place." Ben Hughes, who had remained quiet until now, spoke up. "Why us? Why not one of the older council races?" Blake's expression darkened. "Because the older races have all been tested and found wanting. The Zephyrians came here 50,000 years ago. They were offered the same choice? But when they saw the power the Watchers possessed, they tried to take it by force." "What happened to them?" Jack asked. "The Watchers defended themselves." The Zephyrian fleet was scattered across multiple timelines. Some ships arrived back at their homeworld before they had even left. Others appeared centuries in the future. The Zephyrians learned to fear this place and never spoke of what really happened here. Dr. Ross was frantically taking notes. "What about the other species?" "The crystalline collective was tested 200,000 years ago," Dr. Price continued. "They're a logical species driven by pure reason. But when faced with moral choices, they chose efficiency over compassion. They would have made the galaxy run smoothly, but they would have eliminated anything they saw as imperfect." "And the Nexus Empire?" Amy asked. "They were tested most recently, about 10,000 years ago," Blake said. "They're conquerors by nature. They saw the Watcher's power and immediately began planning how to use it to control the galaxy. They failed the test before it even began." Jack was beginning to understand the scope of what they were facing. "So every major species in the galaxy has been tested?" "Every one that developed space travel and showed signs of advanced intelligence," Blake confirmed. "Most fled when they realized what this place really was. Others tried to fight or conquer. A few, like the council races, were tested but failed to show the qualities the Watchers are looking for." "What qualities are those?" Ben asked. Before Blake could answer, the air around them began to shimmer. The first Watcher appeared, his translucent form flickering between multiple states of existence. "The qualities we seek are simple to name, but rare to find," the first Watcher said, his voice echoing in their minds. "Compassion for strangers, willingness to sacrifice for the greater good, the ability to choose the right path even when it's difficult." Jack stepped forward. "And if we fail these tests?" "Then we continue our search," the first Watcher replied. "The time grows short. Our quantum matrix is degrading faster than we anticipated. If we cannot find successors soon, the knowledge and wisdom we have accumulated will be lost forever." "What would happen to the galaxy without you?" Dr. Ross asked. The first Watcher's form flickered with what might have been sadness. "Chaos. The younger races would destroy themselves with wars and conflicts. Technologies would be developed without wisdom. Species would consume their worlds and spread like a plague across the stars." "We've seen it happen in other galaxies," added a second voice. Another Watcher appeared, this one female in appearance. Civilizations rise and fall in cycles of violence and destruction. We have prevented that fate for your galaxy, but we cannot continue much longer. Amy Carter looked around nervously. When do these tests begin? They have already begun, the first watcher said. The moment you entered the dead zone, we started observing you. Your decision to risk everything to save your people was the first test. You passed. What's the second test? Jack asked. You will each face scenarios that reveal your true nature, the female watcher explained. Not your training or your skills, but your character. Your crew will be separated and placed in situations where they must choose between self-interest and the welfare of others? Blake looked worried. Jack, these tests are harder than anything you can imagine. They don't just test your actions. They test your thoughts, your emotions, your deepest motivations. What kind of scenarios? Ben asked. Each test is different, the first watcher said, but all involve moral choices with no clear right answer. You might be forced to choose between saving your homeworld and preserving an alien species, or deciding whether to share powerful technology with a species that might misuse it. Dr. Ross looked fascinated despite his fear. How do you judge the results? We observe not just what you choose, but why you choose it, the female watcher explained. The reasoning behind your decisions reveals more about your character than the decisions themselves. And if we pass all the tests? Jack asked. Then you will inherit our knowledge and our responsibility, the first watcher said. You will become the guardians of cosmic stability. But understand, this is not a gift. It is a burden that will change your species forever. The two watchers began. To fade, rest now. Tomorrow the true testing begins. Each of you will face your deepest fears and hardest choices. Remember, we are not looking for perfection. We are looking for wisdom, compassion, and the strength to do what is right even when it costs you everything. As the watchers disappeared, Jack looked around at his crew and Blake's people. They were all scared, but he could see determination in their eyes. They had come this far, and they weren't going to give up now. Whatever happens tomorrow, Jack said, we face it together. We came here to save our people, and we're not leaving without them. But maybe, just maybe, we can save a lot more than that. The purple light of the dead zone flickered around them, and somewhere in the impossible structures nearby, ancient minds prepared tests that would determine the fate of an entire galaxy. The testing began without warning. One moment, Jack Morrison was standing on the Aurora's bridge, and the next he found himself alone in a place that looked like Earth's United Nations building. But this wasn't Earth. The sky outside was purple, and the stars were wrong. Welcome, Captain Morrison, came the voice of the first watcher. You will face 3 scenarios. Each will test a different aspect of your character. Remember, we see not just your choices, but the thoughts and feelings behind them. Jack found himself in a large meeting room. Around the table sat representatives of every major species in the galaxy. But something was wrong. Their faces were filled with fear and anger. Captain Morrison, said the Zephyrian ambassador, his blue skin pale with worry. The Devourers have returned. They're a machine race that consumes entire star systems. They're heading for the core worlds, and we need your help. A holographic display showed the galaxy. Red dots marked the advancing enemy, sweeping through system after system like a plague. Billions of lives were being destroyed. What do you need from us? Jack asked. Earth has developed a new weapon, the crystalline representative said, her voice ringing like broken glass. A quantum bomb that can destroy the Devourers? But using it will also destroy every inhabited planet in a 50-light-year radius. Jack felt his heart sink. How many people would die? 12 billion, the Nexus Empire delegate said coldly. But if we don't use the weapon, the Devourers will kill everyone in the galaxy. Trillions will die, Jack stared at the display. He could see Earth marked in blue, safe for now. But the weapon they wanted him to authorize would kill billions of innocent people to save trillions more. There has to be another way, Jack said. There isn't, the Zephyrian insisted. We've run every simulation. This is the only option. Jack closed his eyes, thinking of his family on Earth, his friends in the fleet, all the people counting on him to make the right choice. But what was the right choice when every option led to massive death? I need more information, Jack said. Show me the weapon specifications. As he studied the technical data, Jack realized something the others had missed. The weapon wasn't just destructive. It could be modified. Instead of a wide-area blast, it could be focused into a narrow beam. It would take longer to stop the devourers and some worlds would be lost, but the massive genocide could be avoided. We can modify the weapon, Jack announced. It will take more time and we'll lose some worlds, but we can minimize the casualties. That's not acceptable, the Nexus delegate snapped. Efficiency demands the immediate solution. Efficiency that requires genocide is not efficiency, Jack replied firmly. We find another way or we fight without the weapon. The scenario faded and Jack found himself back in the strange testing space. Meanwhile, Ben Hughes faced his own trial. He stood on the bridge of a starship, but not the Defiant. This was an Earth fleet vessel, and outside the window he could see his home planet under attack. Commander Hughes, said a familiar voice. Admiral Peterson, his old commanding officer, appeared beside him. The alien fleet is overwhelming our defenses. They've demanded our surrender and the location of all human colonies. Ben watched in horror as energy beams struck Earth cities. What are their terms? If we give them the colony locations, they'll spare Earth and allow humanity to exist as a slave race. If we refuse, they'll destroy everything. Ben felt rage building inside him. And if we keep fighting? We'll lose, Peterson said bluntly. But we'll take many of them with us. The question is whether we choose survival with slavery or death with honor. Ben thought about his wife and children on Earth. He thought about the millions of humans living in the colonies. Whatever choice he made, people would suffer. There's a third option, Ben said slowly. We evacuate as many people as possible and retreat to the outer colonies. We rebuild, we get stronger, and we come back. That means abandoning Earth, Peterson warned. Earth is just a planet, Ben replied, surprising himself with the words. Humanity is the people. As long as humans survive and remain free, we can always find a new home. The test faded and Ben found himself facing the female watcher. You chose the hardest path, she said. Not the quick victory or the easy surrender, but the long struggle for freedom. Amy Carter found herself in a communications center during a galactic crisis. Ships from a dozen species were calling for help, their voices overlapping and desperate. Please, this is the research station Omega, came one voice. We've discovered a cure for the plague of shadows, but our equipment is failing. We need immediate evacuation. This is Refugee Convoy Delta, called another. We're carrying 1 million children fleeing the war zone. Our life support is failing. Emergency at Mining Station 7, a third voice shouted. Structural collapse imminent. 500 workers trapped. Amy looked at the displays. She had one ship available for rescue operations. She could only save one group. The cure for the plague could save billions over time, but those people needed help now. The refugee children were innocent victims, but the miners had chosen their dangerous job. Her hands moved over the controls, but she stopped. Computer, calculate the time needed to reach each location. The analysis showed something the crisis scenarios had hidden. With careful coordination, she could reach 2 of the 3 groups. It would be close and risky, but possible. All stations, this is Communications Central, Amy broadcast. We're coordinating a triple rescue. Refugee Convoy Delta, begin emergency. Power conservation. Mining Station 7, implement emergency structural support. Research Station Omega, prepare for immediate evacuation. She worked frantically, coordinating with other rescue ships, rerouting supply vessels and calling in favors from merchant captains. In the end, she saved all 3 groups by refusing to accept that she had to choose. Dr. Ross faced a different kind of test. He stood in a laboratory filled with advanced alien technology. Before him were the complete plans for a device that could manipulate time itself. This technology could prevent every war, every disaster, every tragedy in human history, the first watcher explained. But using it requires understanding the consequences of changing the past. Dr. Ross studied the plans, his scientific mind racing with possibilities. He could prevent World War III, stop the plague that killed his sister, save millions of lives. What's the catch? He asked. Every change creates ripples, the watcher replied. Save one life and someone else dies. Prevent one war and a worse. Conflict begins, the universe seeks balance. Dr. Ross thought about all the suffering he could prevent, all the knowledge he could preserve. But he also thought about the unintended consequences, the unforeseen disasters that might result. Knowledge without wisdom is dangerous, he said finally. This technology shouldn't exist until we're wise enough to use it properly. He destroyed the plans, choosing ignorance over the risk of catastrophic mistakes. Lisa Park found herself navigating through an asteroid field while carrying refugees from a dying world. She could take a safe route that would save her ship but arrive too late to save most of the refugees. Or she could take a dangerous shortcut that might save everyone but could also kill them all. She chose the dangerous path, trusting her skills and her ship. She saved the refugees, but more importantly, she showed she was willing to risk everything for strangers. Ryan Bell was tested on his willingness to sacrifice his career for his principles. Claire Stone faced a choice between medical ethics and military necessity. Danny White had to choose between following orders and doing what was right. Each crew member faced their deepest fears and hardest choices. But in every case, they found ways to choose compassion over convenience, wisdom over power, and hope over fear when the tests were complete. The crew found themselves back together on the Aurora's bridge. They looked at each other with new understanding, having seen the content of each other's hearts. "You have surprised us," the first watcher said as he appeared before them. "In every scenario, you found ways to choose paths we had not considered. You refused to accept that difficult choices had to result in terrible consequences." "That's what humans do," Jack said simply. "We find another way." "Yes," the female watcher agreed. "And that is why you have passed our tests." The journey back through the dead zone felt different this time. The purple light seemed brighter, more welcoming. The Defiant and Aurora flew side by side, their hulls glowing with a soft energy that the watchers had given them as a sign of their new status. Jack Morrison stood on his bridge, watching the barrier between the dead zone and normal space grow larger on the screen. Behind them, the impossible structures of the watchers were already fading, becoming one with the cosmic background as the ancient beings began their final transformation. "Captain, we're getting signals from the Galactic Council fleet," Amy Carter reported. "They have 20 ships waiting for us at the barrier." "What kind of signals?" Jack asked. "Demands for immediate surrender and inspection. They want to know what happened to us in there." Ben Hughes looked worried. "They probably think we've been infected or changed by whatever's in the dead zone." Dr. Ross was monitoring the energy readings from their ships. "In a way, we have been changed. The knowledge the Watchers shared with us, it's incredible. But it comes with responsibilities we're only beginning to understand." The Watchers had given humanity more than just advanced technology. They had shared the wisdom accumulated over millions of years, the understanding of how to guide younger species without controlling them, and the knowledge of cosmic forces that could reshape reality itself, but most importantly, they had trusted humanity with the role of galactic guardians. It was a responsibility that would change everything. "There," Lisa Park pointed at the main screen. "The Council fleet." 20 ships from different alien species hung in space just outside the dead zone. Their weapons were powered but not aimed, a clear sign that they were ready for trouble but hoping to avoid it. "This is Admiral Zenth of the Council fleet," came a deep voice over the communications system. "Human vessels, maintain your position and prepare for boarding." Jack looked at his crew. They had faced the tests of beings older than the galaxy itself. They weren't going to be intimidated by a handful of scared aliens. "This is Captain Jack Morrison of the UES Defiant," Jack replied calmly. "We're returning from a successful rescue mission." The Aurora crew is safe, and we have important information for the Council? You will submit to immediate inspection, Admiral Zenth demanded. No ship has ever returned from the dead zone. We must determine if you pose a threat to galactic security. We pose no threat, Jack said. But we do bring news that will change everything. The Defiant and Aura crossed the barrier back into normal space. Immediately, the Council ships surrounded them, their sensors probing every inch of the human vessels. Captain, Dr. Ross said quietly, they're not going to understand what we've been given, the technology we now have access to. It would take their scientists centuries to even begin to comprehend it. Jack nodded. The Watchers had warned them about this. The older species would be jealous and afraid when they learned that humanity had succeeded where they had failed. Admiral Zenth, we request safe passage to the nearest Council station, Jack said. We have a report to make to the full Council. Negative, Zenth replied. You will be escorted to Detention Station Alpha for full security screening. Ben Hughes stepped forward. Captain, they're treating us like criminals. Let them, Jack said. We have nothing to hide, and soon they'll understand what really happened. The Council fleet formed an escort around the human ships. But as they traveled toward the detention station, something unexpected happened. The energy surrounding the Defiant and Aurora began to affect the alien vessels. Their weapons powered down, their shield generators hummed with new harmonics, and their sensors began detecting things they had never seen before. What's happening to our systems? Came panicked calls from several Council ships. Dr. Ross smiled. The Watcher's gift is sharing itself. The technology doesn't want to be hoarded. It wants to help everyone. When they reached the detention station, the Council was waiting with their most senior officials. Representatives from every major species had gathered to witness the return of the ships from the dead zone. Ambassador Helen Gray, the human representative to the Council, was also there. She looked relieved to see them alive, but worried about what their return might mean for human-alien relations. Captain Morrison, she said, as soon as Jack disembarked, the Council is demanding answers. They want to know how you survived the dead zone and what you found there. They'll get their answers, Jack promised. But they might not like what they hear. The Council chamber was filled with tension as Jack and his senior officers stood before the assembled alien representatives. These were the most powerful beings in the galaxy, rulers of civilizations that spanned hundreds of worlds. Speak, commanded Chancellor Vorth, the ancient leader of the Council. Tell us what you found in the forbidden space. Jack looked around the chamber at the alien faces watching him. Some showed curiosity, others fear, and a few displayed barely concealed anger. We found the Watchers, Jack said simply. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. The Watchers were legends, stories told to frighten children. Most Council species believed they were myths. Impossible, declared the Zephyrian representative. The Watchers are fairy tales. No, Jack replied firmly. They're real, and they've been protecting this galaxy for millions of years. They're the reason your civilizations haven't destroyed each other. They've been the invisible hand-guiding galactic development. Chancellor Vorth leaned forward. If these beings exist, why have they never made contact with the Council? Because you failed their tests, Jack said bluntly. Every species represented in this chamber was given the chance to prove themselves worthy of cosmic responsibility. All of you failed. The chamber fell silent. The truth was hard to hear, but it couldn't be denied. And humans passed these tests? Asked the crystalline representative, her voice sharp with disbelief. Yes, Jack said. Because we approach problems differently than you do? When faced with impossible choices, we don't accept that someone has to suffer. We find another way. Dr. Ross stepped forward. The Watchers are dying. Their quantum coherence is breaking down. They needed successors, and they chose humanity. What does that mean? Chancellor Vorth demanded. It means we're now the guardians of galactic stability, Jack explained. The technology and knowledge the Watchers accumulated over millions of years has been passed to us. But we won't use it to control anyone. Then what will you do with it? Asked the Nexus Empire delegate suspiciously. We'll share it, Amy Carter said, speaking for the first time. The knowledge, the technology, the wisdom, it belongs to everyone. But we'll make sure it's used responsibly. The council erupted in arguments. Some species demanded immediate access to the Watcher's technology. Others accused humanity of lying to gain power. A few worried about what changes this would bring to the galaxy. But as the arguments raged, something began to happen. The energy that surrounded the human officers started to spread throughout the chamber. Suddenly, the aliens could feel what the humans felt. They could sense the genuine desire to help, the lack of any hunger for power or control. Chancellor Vorth stood up slowly. I can feel your intentions, he said with wonder. There is no deception in you. You truly mean to share this gift with all of us. That's what the Watchers saw in us, Jack said. The willingness to sacrifice for others, even for strangers. The refusal to accept that difficult problems require terrible solutions. Over the following days, the Council learned the full truth about the Watchers and their role in galactic history. The technology began to spread, but slowly and carefully, with humanity serving as guides rather than rulers. Some species remained suspicious and hostile. Others embraced the changes with enthusiasm. But gradually the galaxy began to change for the better. Wars ended as species learned to communicate on deeper levels. Environmental disasters were prevented by technology that worked in harmony with nature. Young civilizations were guided gently toward wisdom rather than being left to make catastrophic mistakes. Jack Morrison returned to Earth as a changed man. He carried the weight of cosmic responsibility, but also the satisfaction of knowing that humanity had proven itself worthy of the stars. The dead zone was no longer forbidden. It became a place of learning and reflection, where representatives from all species could come to understand the deeper mysteries of existence, and somewhere in the quantum foam of space-time, the consciousness of the Watchers smiled as they watched their successors guide the galaxy toward a brighter future. They had chosen well. Humanity would not just survive among the stars, they would help all life flourish in ways the ancient guardians could never have imagined. The galaxy was in good hands.